Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are unpacking a truly fascinating economic and structural philosophy. We're looking at a complete blueprint for a moneyless micro-society, and this is derived directly from the original source texts of the founder of Lifechun Yuan, tour guide Xu Feng. Whether you're a sociology buff into alternative economic models, or just curious about utopian community structures, this source material offers a highly detailed, genuinely unique paradigm. It kind of challenges everything we assume about how human beings transact, live, and work together. We're going to break down exactly how this system operates, straight from Xu Feng's own writings. Okay, let's dive right into this macro to micro blueprint. We'll start with the illusion of currency, see how a moneyless society actually functions in practice, and look at plans for expansion. Then, we'll explore how this eradicates debt, and finally, reveal the heavenly blueprint behind the whole shebang. Section 1. The illusion of currency. Wealth versus paper. To really grasp Lifechun Yuan's community, we have to start with Xu Feng's core concept about money. The source text points us to the year 2009, specifically looking at the economic situation in Zimbabwe. Xu Feng uses this exact historical moment to prove a major point. In 2009, Zimbabwean $100 banknotes were essentially worthless. I mean, they weren't even worth the paper and ink used to print them. Why? Well, because when a currency fails to represent actual tangible wealth, it instantly loses its power. Xu Feng argues that when this happens, a banknote literally has less value than a square of toilet tissue. Because, hey, at the very least, the tissue serves a practical physical purpose, right? And that brings us to how Lifechun Yuan officially defines currency. The absolutely crucial takeaway here is that Lifechun Yuan definitely acknowledges the need for actual wealth. Material wealth, spiritual wealth, soul wealth, they're all vital. But currency itself? Currency is viewed merely as a symbol. It's just a medium, a kind of illusory contract for exchange that only holds value because a group of people collectively agree to recognize it. To them, it's no different than a marriage certificate or an ID card. It represents an agreement, sure, but it is absolutely not the wealth itself. Moving on to Section 2, a moneyless micro-society, 10 years of practice. Now, philosophy is great, but how does this actually work when people have to, eat, sleep, and live together? Well, this brilliantly illustrates how Lifechun Yuan has practically applied this philosophy internally over the last decade. Because the external world obviously still relies on money to move goods around, Lifechun Yuan has to interact with it, but they completely isolate that friction. Only specific, designated roles, like a dedicated accountant and designated purchasers, ever handle outside money. For the vast majority of the community who are known as Chinayuan Celestials, the internal reality is absolute zero currency. They rely entirely on community provision for everything. There is literally no money circulating among the members inside the home. And this leads to a pretty fascinating sociological outcome. Xu Feng writes, when no one has any interest in trading with money or currency, then getting along with each other becomes simple. According to the text, taking internal financial transactions out of the equation removes a massive layer of interpersonal friction. The result, described over the past 10 years, is an incredibly harmonious environment. The residents reportedly live like close family members, brothers, sisters, close friends. Why? Because the whole concept of financial leverage or owing someone or competing for funds, it's just completely removed from their daily lives. Section 3. Expanding the model. From micro to macro. So it's pretty easy to see how a closed-loop system might work for a small, isolated group. But Zefeng has a very specific vision for how this model could hypothetically expand to the rest of the world. Let's walk through how this builds. Take a power station, for example. In step 1, the external workers there become Chinayuan Celestials. In step 2, they provide that electricity directly to the community. In return, step 3, the community provides those workers with absolutely everything they need: food, housing, healthcare, you name it. Finally, in step 4, the external electric bill just vanishes completely. Zefeng applies this exact same logic to clothing factories and basically all other walks of life. As more sectors integrate into the community, the need for money just dissolves. Section 4. Eradicating debt and corruption, the natural result. When you build a society that simply doesn't borrow or lend money, you get some massive, friction-free consequences. The philosophy states that members give all their value to the home, and the home provides all their needs. But this immediately brings up a very natural question, right? Without money, can there still be corrupt officials? I mean, it's human nature to be a bit skeptical about utopian models. We kind of expect greed. We expect someone at the top to hoard resources.
So how on earth does Life Shanayan address this seemingly inevitable human flaw?
Well, Zhu Feng systematically outlines several structural safeguards that claim to make corruption physically impossible. First off, there's no internal money to hide, period. Second, all your needs are already met, so what's the point of hoarding? Third, communal living means hundreds of eyes are literally always watching you. But it goes even further than that. You don't even clean your own room. Professionals do it. So you couldn't hide stolen goods even if you tried. And finally, to prevent any kind of secret alliances or cliques, members are transferred to new branches every 3 years. You physically cannot stick around long enough to build a corrupt local empire. Now, what's really interesting about this is how Xu Feng completely redefines the very concept of leadership. In the secular world, titles like director or official usually mean wielding power and controlling wealth. But in the Life Genuine reality, those titles are just used to sort of echo secular terminology. In reality, a director is actually a chief servant or a branch servant. Instead of wielding power, their primary job is to care the most for the community. And instead of controlling the wealth, they are the ones dedicating the most resources. Yet they physically handle zero money. The designated purchasers do all of that. The leadership is entirely separated from the finances.
Which brings us to Section 5, the heavenly blueprint, the ultimate goal.
So we've looked at the economics, the social structure, and those intense safeguards. But what is the actual bedrock motivation for this incredibly structured earthly program? According to the source text, tour guide Xu Feng makes a very, very bold claim. He states that he didn't sit around researching human history or analyzing old economic models or brainstorming new sociological frameworks. Instead, he claims this entire structure is a direct replica of a life mode from a celestial realm, specifically what he calls the 1,000-year world. So this earthly community is, in his view, a literal copy of a heavenly blueprint.
And this brings us to our final thought. The ultimate purpose of this moneyless society isn't just to relieve the daily stress of life, or even just to create a harmonious community, though it certainly aims to do that. Xu Feng writes that by living this way, quote, after leaving this world, they can at least go to the 1,000-year world with experience. It leaves us with such a profound and provocative question to ponder, doesn't it? What happens when an entire community treats their current, moneyless economic reality not just as a way to find earthly happiness, but as literal, practical training for the afterlife? It is an absolutely fascinating paradigm and one that for sure challenges our conventional understanding of wealth, society, and our ultimate purpose. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep questioning the structures around you.